Okay, let's continue today's topic, students. So in this topic, it's a very interesting topic, I must say. So we are going to learn about a very crucial topic because it will go with you lifelong. Yes, even in the higher classes. So here we are talking about friction. So if I explain you friction in one word, okay, if I explain you in one single word, friction means which oppose your force or your motion. Let me give you one example. Okay, so here if I'm talking about the friction, what you understood is friction is a kind of a, it's a kind of a force which is always opposite to your force, your motion. Let's say this is a ball. Okay, you throw this ball in this direction by putting a force, by applying the force. Okay, you apply the force and throw this ball in this direction. Equal and opposite force is offered by the ground also. Okay, let's say here, can you see this ball? I am throwing this ball in this direction. This arrow, can you see the upward arrow? Okay, in this direction I am throwing this ball by putting some force, by using my muscular force, you say. Equal and opposite force is applied by the ground to resist. Resist means to provide some resistance. In Hindi, it is called as rukavat. Yes, to provide a resistance to the ball, to come to rest, to come to stationary. That force is known as friction force. So what we understood, friction is what? Friction is a resistance which is offered by the ground or the surface on any object to make it to come to rest. Okay, because if I am throwing a ball, it will keep on moving. Yes, it will come to rest just because one more force is acting opposite to my force or motion. That is frictional force. I hope you understood what is frictional force. Okay, so some essential thing that you should know regarding the frictional force is what? In frictional force, what is required? There must be there must be a two body in contact, two object in contact, two surface in contact. So there should be a contact between the two objects. First essential condition. Second essential condition is what? There should be two object, two body, two end, you can say, or there must be some force or the motion applied. Okay, so in short, if I say the definition, so force of friction is what? Which oppose your force, your motion, okay, who are in contact to each other. Okay, so first, before going ahead with a further explanation, I want some examples, some instances from your side to elaborate the friction. Some practical example from your side. Yes. Can you tell me the friction you can see in your day-to-day life? Yes. You can turn on your video, students. No problem. It will increase our proper interaction. It will enhance our proper interaction. Yes.
Now, kicking a football is an example of friction force. While we kick a football, it stops after some time because of frictional force on it.
Yes, exactly. But can you give me another example? Because this is the example that I had given you.
Now,
Just
while
think. Yes.
yes, ma'am. During cycling, also when we do cycling, then we use brakes. So brakes also cause resistance, and that is also an example of frictional force.
Very good. Perfect. Bravo. That's what I want. So friction, you understood. Just remember one word. Resistance, which is offered by the ground. Yes, you can put your force. I am also making some resistance to stop you somewhere. Okay. And remember one thing, one crucial point here. Friction is always opposite to your force, your motion. If your force is horizontal from the right side, friction is from the left side. If your force is from upward, the friction is from downward. If your force is from downward, the friction from upward. Let me give you one more example, though it is in the further slide, but here I want to elaborate to make the topic more interesting for you. If a person is coming down from the parachute, okay, you know very well the person is coming down from the parachute. Can you tell me how come anything is coming down? What is the reason we are on the earth? We can walk. Yes. Yes.
Ma'am, it is due to gravitational force.
Exactly. This is due to gravitational force or gravity, we can say. Exactly. Perfect answer. So when I am landing on the earth by using my parachute, I'm coming down on the earth because of gravity. Gravity, the earth has been a very big magnet pulling me towards the earth. But equal opposite to that gravitational force, one more force is pushing me upward. Do you know what it is? It is the pressure. It is a force which is offered by the air on the canvas of the parachute, which is pushing me upward. And why we are using a parachute? Because one force is pulling me downward, that is gravitational force. Another force is pushing me upward, that is a force of friction, which is opposite to the downward force. So upward force here, which is offered by the air, is known as a frictional force, which is when the air enter into the canvas of the parachute, and this ensured the safer landing on the earth. I hope I am very much clear to you. Is there any doubt up to here? Yes, you can unmute yourself if you understood, and you can show me the thumb. One more thing I want to elaborate here. If you understood the topic, please show me the thumb so that I get to know whether you are getting across to me or not. Yes, beta, I can see that. Okay, so I hope you understood what is friction. One word, resistance. Okay, it is always opposite to your motion, your force. Okay, we understood the example also, ball example, as well as parachute example. In order to understand, it is always opposite to your force. Okay, now here, can you see such a simple example? Let me give you one simple example here. We understood friction. What is friction or resistance? Now, can you tell me in which instance whether the person is sliding or skiing on a very smooth surface or on a rough surface? In which case more resistance, more friction is there? Yes, can you tell me? I want to answer from your side. In which case the person is having more resistance?
The second one, the B one.
Yes, perfect. Bravo. Perfect answer. Yes, in the second case. Can you tell me what is the reason behind here?
It's because the second one has a rough surface, whereas the A one, it has like a smooth surface, which it reduces the resistance.
Exactly. We go by the practical approach, practical, you can say perception. So here also we can answer this thing. Your answer is perfectly okay. This shows that you understood that on the rough surface, if I'm talking about rough surface, the friction is less. Whereas on the, on the smooth surface, the friction is less. Whereas we are talking about rough surface, the friction is more. But what is the reason behind? The reason is the surface is uneven or having many irregularity. Just think of the situation when you are having two blocks of wood having many irregularity, means I want to say the surface is uneven. They will definitely having more interlockings. Yes, they are having more interlocking, so more resistance are there in order to slide over each other. Yes, so in rough surface, if I'm talking about, they have more irregularities. Please do remember this word, it will help you a lot. Irregularity, roughness, uneven surface, which increase the friction, which give you more friction, more resistance. Whereas on the smooth surface, it is less. Let me give you one more example here, student. Okay, okay, can you give me one example of the rough and the smooth surface before going ahead with the next slide? Yes. Yes, I want an example from you. Rough or the smooth surface? Yes.
For example, like when we are pushing something or the box from a surface, and if the surface is smooth, it will be like pushed very easily. Whereas, like if it has irregularities or it's rough, it won't be that easy to do it.
Very happy to hear such an answer. Very nice. And I'm more happy when you use the word irregularities. Very good. Perfect. Bravo. So here irregularity we understood. If more irregularities are there, that means the surface are more uneven. And if the surface is more uneven, it makes the surface rough. And if the surface is rough, more resistance offered by the ground. If the surface is smooth, then less resistance, less friction. Okay. Okay, let me give you one more example. If you are having an ice cube in your hand and you try to slide the same on the surface, say the wooden surface, it can easily slide. That we will learn in the further slide about the types of friction. But here also, what we understood one thing: when the surface is smooth, the friction is less. When the surface is rough, friction is more. Okay. And do remember one thing, one student asked me in the previous session, ma'am, what would happen if I am going with a great speed? In that case also friction is there. Yes, dear, friction is there. Friction is always there, like gravity. It will never let us go. Yes, but though our speed is more as compared to the frictional force, so we are able to overcome that friction. Okay, so do remember, if our speed is higher, we are moving with the greatest speed, so friction is there but less. It will, our speed overcome that friction. Okay, I hope you understood. Let's move ahead. So here, student, can you see the ball example I gave you? The girl is trying to pushing this box. So where is the force of this box? It is pushing. Here is a pushing force. Can you see that pushing force? Yes, it is visible to you all, pushing force. Okay, let me mark that. Okay, can you see that pushing force? So friction force is always opposite to your force of motion. Here, ball example I had already given you. Okay, I hope you understood. Okay, now let me give you another important about the friction. So here I explain you about the friction, student. In friction, what we understood, the friction depend on what? So here we are going to read in detail about the factors. So please do remember, can you tell me what are the things which make the surface more rough? What are the things which make the surface rough? How come you can say this surface is smooth or this surface is rough? Yes?
Whether it has or does not have irregularities.
Yes, very good, perfect answer. If it has more irregularity, we can say the surface is more rough. Yes. Okay, perfect answer. That is what I want to explain you in this case. So do remember one thing. Let me give you one example. If I step on a banana peel, you know that we used to walk on the ground. We can walk easily. Yes, because do you know, have you ever noticed when we are walking, we are pushing the ground back? Yes, our motion is backward. Means we are moving forward, but we are pushing the ground back. That is our force. But on the same action, the forward motion of our body is due to friction. So do you imagine a situation if there is no friction? Have you ever seen on the you can say Discovery Channel, in the comedy videos, the person tried to move on a very you can say a ice sheet which is very smooth. So the person often slip down, the person often fall. Why? Because there is friction but very less friction. Okay, so that is what we understood about the irregularities. If more this irregularities are there, or if the surface is smooth. Okay, now let's move ahead with a very important topic, student, here, that is a type of friction. Okay, before going ahead this, I want to make you understand one more thing, the factor affecting the friction. Okay, so there are two major factors. I don't want to explain you in like a theoretical manner. Here just go by two ways. What are they? What are the factors which affect the friction, or you can say a friction depend on? First is your surface area, that we already read in the previous slide. If your surface area is smooth, friction is what? Friction is less. Okay, if your surface area is rough, your friction is more. That is first factor, surface area. Another factor is what? Weight. Okay, you can say not exactly a weight, because if weight is a force, you can say a mass. What it is? Mass means content or heaviness of your body. If the content of any object is very heavy, the frictional force offered to that object is more. Okay, let me explain you with the help of a type of friction. So up to here, what we understood, the factor in which the friction depend on. So two factor is surface area, whether it is rough or whether it is smooth. Second is weight. Why I had not explained you in the previous slide, because here I want to explain you in detail with the help of this slide. So please see it properly. Okay, it is very interesting here. Okay, let me take the pen first. Okay, here, can you see here, student, the two type of friction? First is static, Another is kinetic. The name itself defines its meaning. Static means at rest, at stationary. Kinetic, which is at motion. So if I'm talking about static, means at rest. Okay. So can you think of a situation? You have a couch at a living room and you try to move with all your might, with all your force, with all your energy, but you can't able to move a little bit. It is like that only. It is not moving a little bit also. Why so? Because the weight of the couch is too heavy. The mass of the couch is too heavy, you can say. Okay, so do remember, here come the first type of friction, that is static. Static means any object which is at rest. Static friction is applied on the object which is heavy in nature and which has a which friction? Static friction. So here the couch on the living room is experiencing a which kind of a friction? Static friction. Okay, it is also known as a limiting friction. Please do remember, static friction is what? Limiting friction. So now here what this formula is doing, what does it mean? So it means that here, can you see that Fs, static friction, is directly proportional to weight. If weight of an object is more, the static friction is also more. Have you seen? It is a very heavy object. So weight of this object is heavy. Therefore, the static friction applied by the ground is also more. I hope I am very much clear to you. Yes, please show me the thumb if you understood the static friction properly. If you
Like, can you
understood properly.
explain 1 second? I'm like a little confused in this one.
Yes, beta, come again.
Can you like explain the static friction again? I'm a little confused in this.
Okay. Static means anything which is at rest. Okay. So here, can you see the couch? Couch is at rest or not? Yes. It is at stationary. Yes. It is at stationary or a rest. So, which friction is offered on a stationary body which is at rest? Here, the ground is offering one friction. There is a contact between the couch and the ground. Yes. So here arise one friction which is offered by the ground to the couch. What it is? Static friction. Static friction is applied only in case of an object which is at rest. Okay, and which is always more. Why? Because it is directly proportional to the weight. If the weight is more, the static friction offered by the ground on the couch is also more. Now, am I clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so do remember, static friction is also known as what? Limiting friction. If the weight of an object is more, static friction is also more. So here I think you understood that concept also. Two factor affecting the friction. First is weight, second is surface area. Surface area, whether it is smooth or whether it is rough. Rough means more irregularity. Sorry. I hope I am very much clear up to here. Any doubt, Pita?
No, ma'am.
Okay, very nice. Okay, so here we understood about the friction, first type of friction, that is static friction. Okay, so the force which oppose applied force such that the body remains static in spite of applied force. And please do remember, if I try a lot to move this couch, I can't able to move it because it is very heavy. Okay, so static force is applied by the ground on this couch is too much as compared to the force I offered. Okay, that is called static friction. Now let's move ahead with the another type. Please do remember limiting friction, because in some cases they are asking what is limiting friction. Okay, they are comparing whether limiting friction is more or any other sliding or the rolling friction is more. That I am telling you in a further slide about this. Can you give me some example of static friction before going ahead with another slide? Yes. Think of a situation.
When we try to move a heavy table.
Okay. Can you elaborate a little bit?
So like if we have like a wooden table, most of the wooden tables are heavy, so they are like hard to move. In that case, static friction is being forced or is in the wooden table.
Yes, it is offered by the ground on that particular object due to the heaviness of object. Okay, even though you are applying the external force, you can't able to move a little bit, not even a little bit. Yes, because the frictional force offered by, or the force offered by you, the frictional force is more. Okay, now here we are talking about kinetic friction. Kinetic means which is at motion. So here come the two kind of force. Let's see in detail. So we are talking about what? Two type of forces. What are they? Let's see. Okay, so here first one is sliding friction, second is rolling friction. Then I'm going to say, then I'm going to tell you about the relationship between the three. Okay, sliding itself define its meaning: slide, the thing or an object which can slide easily over another object. In the previous slide, I gave you one example of the ice. Okay, ice cube. If you slide an ice cube on the wooden surface, it can easily slide. Yes, why? Because the surface is quite what is smooth. Okay, so that is a good example of sliding friction. So sliding friction which arise when an object start moving over the surface, okay, as a sliding friction which can easily slide. Here you can see the child can easily slide over the slide. Yes, that is also a good example of sliding friction. So force or the motion that the child is applying here from the upward, but on the downward another force is being applied on the child. That is a force of friction or the sliding friction. Okay, which is only applicable in case of a thing which can slide. You know, the thing which can slide. Okay, like even in the ice sheet which can slide. Okay, you can do the skiing on it. That is also a good example of sliding friction. Okay, let's move ahead with the rolling friction. Rolling friction is applicable on the material which is spherical in shape, which is round in shape, or which can roll down. Okay, which can easily roll down, like in case of a wheel, which can easily roll down. Okay, so another friction is applied, though the wheel is moving and applying the motion in one direction, another force is applied on the wheel from the ground. That is what kind of a force it is? Frictional force. Okay, let me give you one example here so that you will understand properly about the irregularity as well as the rolling friction. Okay, if I am having one tire here and it is as smooth as possible, it is a smooth tire, and I will move this tire on the roadside, it can easily roll down, it can easily move on the roadside. Yes, but instead of this tire, I am taking a tire. You might have seen those kind of a tire. Let me show you the screen so that it is more clear to you. Okay, if I'm talking about the tire, yes, here. Okay, if I'm talking about the tire, can you see this tire? Okay, can you see the grips are provided in this tire? You can see that grips are there. So instead of this tire, this smooth tire, I'm using a tire having a grips in it. So can you tell me which tire can easily move, or which tire experiencing the more friction from the ground? Yes.
The one with the grip will have more resistance or the friction as it has grips.
Very good. And what about the tire is having no grips? It is smooth all over.
That kind of tires will like continuously move, and it's not easy for them to like have a stop suddenly when
Very good. And what would happen? Then what is the result in that case?
there may be accidents or something.
Exactly. That is what I want from you. Exactly. Very good. Perfect answer. That this may lead to the accident also. An accident. Exactly. So this is the reason why friction is very important to us. I hope you understood about the sliding friction, about the rolling friction, and in which object is it is applicable. Now here I want to make you understand one more important thing, that is which friction is more and which is less, and what is the relation between them. If I'm talking, you understood that there are three types of friction. First, we understood there is a what? Static friction. We understood that there is a sliding friction and there is a rolling friction. Okay, so do remember that static always applicable in stationary object which is at rest. Sliding and rolling friction is applicable on the moving object. Yes, so static friction is always greater than sliding friction. Sliding friction is greater than rolling friction. So which one is experiencing a less friction? Can you tell me now? Yes. Yes. Which type of a friction is experiencing a less friction on the ground? Yes. Can you tell me?
Static friction.
Can you come again?
Static friction.
Static friction is what I told you. Can you see this? Greater than sign. Just think of a situation. If you are, yes, just think of a situation. Don't see by the slide. Just have a perception about such a situation in your practical life. If you are having a heavy object on the ground, it's too heavy that you can't even move a little bit. It's too heavy, and you are trying to move it with your force, but you can't able to move it. Okay, so you understood that this object is too heavy, and due to the heaviness, it is experiencing a static friction from the ground. Okay, the ground is offering one friction which is known as static friction. Now you are having a tire or a wheel in your hand. Okay, you are having a tire or a wheel in your hand. You try to move that wheel on the roadside, irrespective whether it has a grip or not. You are trying to move that wheel on the ground. Okay, now tell me in which case the motion is easily done. Yes.
Rolling friction.
Exactly. So which one is facing the more friction and which is facing a less friction, dear?
The static friction is the most over here, and rolling friction is.
That is what I want from you. Bravo. Perfect. This shows that I'm going across to you completely. Very good. That is what I want from you. Yes, perfect answer. So this is what I want to make you understand there. There are three types of friction: static, sliding, and rolling. Static, at rest, stationary, rolling, and sliding on the moving object. And rolling friction is always less friction, offered less friction because it is round in shape. Okay, whereas and it is on motion, whereas static friction at stationary, and it is due to the heaviness of an object. I hope I am very much clear to you. Till here, what we read here, we read about what is friction. We understood the factor affecting the friction, because after understanding the chapter, you should count on the tips of your finger. That is what actual learning, practical learning. It's not about theoretical learning. Okay, I hope you understood what is friction, that is resistance. Factor affecting the friction, that is weight or surface area. Three types of friction: static, rolling, and what it is, sliding friction. And which one is greater, that also I think you understood. Let's move ahead on the next slide. Now here comes the crucial topic: advantage and disadvantage of friction. We understood that friction is, we understood that what is friction, types of friction, factor affecting. Now why it is important to us? Do you know that if friction is not there, do you think of a situation, can we able to move? Yes, can you answer this question? Can we able to walk, run if there is no friction? And in case, if just think of a situation, if no friction is there, how we can walk, and what would happen if we try to walk on the ground? Yes, I want an answer from you.
We might slip or have it cause an accident for us.
Very good, perfect answer. Because do you know that a teacher can write on the blackboard using a simple chalk just because of friction? Because we are putting a force to move that chalk on the blackboard. On the opposite side, another force is acting. That is frictional force or resistance offered to the chalk in order to make them, or in order to protect them from slipping down from your hand or falling down from your hand. In the same way, when we are walking, we are pushing the ground backward and forward. Which force is pushing us? That is frictional force. In the starting of the lecture, I gave you an example of parachute. A ground is pushing us downward, gravitational. Upward motion, that is frictional force. Just because of that, we can land on the ground with full safety, with no accident. Okay, so advantage, if I'm talking about here, the advantage of friction is we can walk, we can run, we can write on the blackboard. Yes, and many more. Yes, with the help, because Friction is all about opposite motion, opposite force, opposite to, it's an opposed motion, opposed force, which is opposite to our force or our motion. Okay, so please do remember this much. Okay, now we understood the advantage. There are so many advantage of friction. When the two body are in contact, two objects are in contact, they produce a friction. Okay, we understood friction. What are the advantages of friction? But what about the disadvantage? Okay, so let's talk about the disadvantage in detail. First disadvantage, just think of a situation, just rub your hand. Can you experience some heat are coming from your hand? From my hand, heat are coming. Yes. So friction, here is a friction between two hands. Yes. Can you see? If I am clap my hand and rub it like this, there is a heat producing from my hand. Two objects come in contact. Yes. So that is the first disadvantage. When one object rub to another object continuously, they are producing heat. Here is one example for you for the disadvantage of friction. That is a forest fire. When the branches of the tree, due to the scorching heat from the sun, or else in the usual case, usual atmospheric temperature, they are rubbing each other continuously, they are producing a heat. This may lead to the forest fire. And you know that what would happen if forest fire is there. So first disadvantage. Second disadvantage, you know that the parts of the machine, if I'm talking about a complex machine, which is, you know, complex machine which is made of many parts. For example, bicycle is a complex machine. I'm not talking about a simple machine. It happened in case of simple machine also. I would like to give you that example also. You know, simple machine which is made of simple parts, complex machine made of many parts, complex, the name itself defining its meaning. Yes. So I'm talking about a complex machine. Can you see this girl is riding a bicycle which is made of a complex machine? Okay. So the parts of the bicycle are rubbing each other. And if they rub each other continuously for longer time, what would happen? It may result in the wear and tear of the parts of the machine. Isn't it? Which result in the what? It damage the part of the machine. Okay. I hope I am very much clear to you. So first disadvantage is what? When there is a friction between two body, it produces the heat. Another example of the friction is what? If there is a continuous rubbing between the two objects, it lead to the what? It lead to the wear and tear of that particular part or that machinery. I hope you understood. Yes? Okay. Now let's move ahead and understand one thing, that how you can, here some examples are given. What would happen? Have you noticed one thing, student? The sole of your shoes, after some time, it is like in such a situation that we cannot use it further. Why? Because it has a continuous friction with the ground. That sole of shoe having a continuous contact with the ground, continuous friction, that result in the what? Wear and tear of your shoe also, the sole of your shoe. Yes. So I hope you understood the disadvantage of what? Friction. Now I want from your side two advantage and two disadvantage before going ahead with the other slide. Yes. Yes. Can you hear me, dear? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. I want a two example of advantage and disadvantage of friction before going ahead with the next slide. Yes.
The cycles have both advantages and disadvantages. For example, like when we are cycling on a normal road, if we want to have a sudden brake, we can just press the brakes, and we can have the friction, and the friction will be used and the resistance will be more. In that case, it will stop the bicycle. Whereas when we are like continuously cycling or doing cycling for a long period of time, the machinery will have some wear and tear, and the parts of the cycle may have been used or overused and might stop working.
Very good. Bravo. This shows that you understood the topic. Very nice. Can you see here in this slide also spikes are there? Can you see these spikes on the shoe? Okay. So if spikes are not there, it is very smooth, and this result in the slip down also. You can slip often. Okay. But these spikes prevent you from slipping down again and again. Even the kabaddi players, while going for a wrestling, or wrestlers also while going for a wrestling, or kabaddi players also, they used to rub their hand with the sand in order to make it little bit rough, so that they have a proper grip on their opponent. Yes, so here are the some instances. I hope you understood how to what are the advantage and disadvantage. Yes, now I want to tell you how to increase the friction, and I think so you are in such a position that you can tell me how we can increase the friction, because we are very much done with the topic. Yes, how we can increase the friction? Can you tell me how you can how you can increase the roughness of anything? Yes, can you tell me, dear?
You can add grips to the object.
Okay, can you give me some examples other than these you can see on the this slide? I want some practical example. Just think, increase your perception and answer, beta.
In pens, we have like the grippings so that we can write for a longer period of time and without having to
Oh my
getting
goodness, such a good answer, huh? Such a good perception. Very good, very good. So you have seen a carom board also. Yes, in carom board, when we are using a striker, before that we sprinkle some powder in it in order to make the surface more smoother. If it becomes smooth, what would happen? If it becomes smooth, what would happen? The friction that we are experiencing. I am giving you example of carom board to make you understand how we can increase or decrease both the cases. You will understand in one example. Okay, if you are not using a powder on the carom board, it is little bit rough surface, though it is made of wood. It is a wooden object, but it is quite rough. If we sprinkle a powder in it to make it smooth, what would happen? It becomes smooth. You can easily use a striker to target your whatever it is. Yes, so in this way you can reduce the friction, reduce the resistance which is generally offered by the ground there. Okay, so how you can increase the friction? You can increase the friction by make the surface more rough, by increasing their irregularities. Yes, you can decrease the friction by make the surface smoother as much as you can by decreasing the irregularity. If I explain in one word, okay, I hope you understood. Yes, okay, here is some example. Yes, one more thing I have forgotten. Let me explain you how you can decrease the friction. How you can decrease the friction? By polishing the surface or by lubricating the surface. Like, let me give you one more example, then I want example from you also. Have you seen the hinges of the door? The hinges that hold the door properly? Yes, sometime during winter and summertime also they are producing a sound like ah ah ah. Yes, so what you can do in that case? Why producing a sound like ah ah ah? It is produces because it is rusted. Yes, that particular hinges of the door are rusted, so it produces such kind of a sound. So what are you supposed to do in that case? You are lubricating it by putting some oil in it. Yes, so that they are producing a sound because they are rubbing continuously. They are wear and teared completely due to the rust also. Yes, so if you put some oil in it so that the surface becomes smooth and they will not offer too much of contact between the hinges and the door, and they can easily move without producing any sound. Yes, so lubricating, oiling, polishing, streamlining is also there. Streamlining is what? Let me explain you. Here I'm about to explain you in the another type of friction, that is fluid friction, but here it is given, that is why I'm explaining you. Can you see that aeroplane? Why it is made like this, having this kind of a structure? This is called stream-like structure. Even the fishes are also having. Have you seen the fish? It is a god creature, fish. It is also having a streamlined body like this. Why so they are having a streamlined body like this? There is a purpose, so that they can come over the frictional force which is offered by the, here in case of aeroplane, the frictional force offered by the air, to come over that frictional force and can move easily in the air. For the fish, the frictional force which is offered by the water, to overcome that frictional force with a speed. So that is why they are having a streamlining body. Okay, I hope I am very much clear to you. So what is the meaning of streamlining? What is the meaning of lubricating? What is the meaning of polishing? Okay, I hope you understood. Okay, ball bearing are this, which is also offering a resistance. Okay, which is also offering a what? Friction. Okay, I hope you understood properly. Let's move ahead. We understood how to increase or decrease the friction. Here comes the last slide of this session. That is very, very important, that I must say. Okay, I want some example from your side after the explanation of same. Okay, so let me explain you fluid friction. Okay, fluid friction, as per your understanding, can you tell me? Let's remove the word friction. If I say the fluid, what is the meaning of fluid as per your perception, Peter? What is the meaning of fluid?
Liquid.
Only liquid? Is that correct?
Whenever substance is in a liquid state.
Okay. Okay. If I say honey, is that a fluid or not?
It is.
Yes. So fluid means liquid plus gas. Okay. So if I ask you fluid, you have to say fluid means liquid plus gas, not only liquid. Okay. So here I am talking about fluid friction by giving you an example. Just now I explained you about the streamlining. Okay. So here are some instances to make the matter more clear to you. I know that you understood, you got an idea what is streamlining. Yes, fish are provided with the streamlining, cars are made with the streamlining, bullet are made with a streamlining body. Okay, even some birds are having a streamlined body, aeroplanes are made with a streamlining body. Why? Because if I'm talking about fish in order to overcome the frictional force which is provided by the water, in water, how the fish are moving, see, this is a fish. Okay, I'm having a very bad drawing, so just go for the explanation, don't see my drawing. This is the fish, huh? This is Jyoti's miss fish. Okay, this fish is moving in this direction, beta. Okay, so fish is putting the force, okay, to move in this direction. Water is offering on the opposite side one force, that is a frictional force. To overcome this frictional force, the fish is moving with the high speed. I told you in the second or third slide only what it is. That is, the if your speed is more, you are able to overcome the frictional force. Okay, friction is there, but your speed is more, so that you can overcome that frictional force. Okay, so streamlining is provided which help them to overcome the frictional force, whether it is offered by the water in case of fish, whether it is offered by the air in case of a aeroplane. Even in the submarine which is going under the water, they are having a streamlining body to overcome the water pressure. Okay, that water frictional force offered on the submarine. Okay, okay. So I gave you in the second or third slide one example, dear, the parachute example. You understood the parachute example? Please show me the thumb if you understood the parachute example. Very good. I can see your thumb. Very nice. So you understood the parachute example. Let me explain you, elaborate you, because I want some example from your side, which is the example of fluid friction, because this is the last slide. Then and thereafter, I'm going to test your knowledge by giving you some question that I suppose from my side that you can solve it. Okay, and you will able to solve it. I have a confidence. Okay, now fluid friction. Fluid friction, I give you the example of parachute. The ground is pushing, or sorry, the ground is pulling that parachute down due to the gravity, being a very big magnet. Earth is a big magnet, yes, and the earth and the air around the earth is pushing that parachute upside. When that air get into the canvas of the parachute, that is a frictional force, because we know that frictional force is always, here is our parachute, yes, here is the parachute. Okay, gravity is downward, upward frictional force, here is a frictional force, here is a gravity wins, huh? But frictional force help us in making the speed of the parachute slow, or and slow down the speed of the parachute, you can say, by entering the air inside the canvas of the parachute. I think you understood. Now I want the example from your side. Okay, you can use your perception, use your all knowledge about streamline body. everything and give me at least 2 examples of fluid friction. Yes. Now it's your time to speak. Yes, dear.
Submarines and even the kayaks have the streamlined body which helps them to tread the water whenever they're like boating or something.
Okay, perfect. I hope now on the tips of your finger you can speak the whole topic. Yes. What are the factors affecting friction? What is friction? What are types of friction? The relation between the friction. Because in my schooling days, I used to do this study like this on the tips of my finger. I never go by the notes. Never. Okay. So I suppose you will also do like this. It will help you a lot. Now here comes the time for your knowledge test. Okay, so I am going to give you some question. I'm reading a question for you. Just think over and speak out the answer. Radha tries to Radha tries to move her bicycle with a brake on, but cannot do so. Why? Can you speak out the answer?
Because the motion on the road opposes the rolling friction.
So what is the option? Which option is correct?
C.
Which one?
The C one.
Can you read it again? Just go through the gravity of the question, interpret it properly, but cannot do so. So with brake on, brake is still there, brake on. Yes. Yes, the answer is B1, sliding friction oppose motion on road. Okay, because though the brakes on means the this Radha is having a grip on the brake, and that brake is resisting, providing a resistance, but it's a kind of a slide because road and the tire, there is a contact between the road and the tires of the bicycle. It's a kind of a slide only. Okay, so it's a sliding friction, and sliding friction is always less than the limiting friction. Okay. Okay, let's move ahead with the next question. Okay. The static friction between an object in contact with a surface when it just starting to slip over the surface is 5 newtons. Please do remember the unit of the force. Any kind of a force is newtons. Okay, because Newton's 3 law you might have learned. Yes, Newton 3 law. So Newton it is given. Then the value of its limiting friction, limiting another name of the static friction. Do remember. Okay, then the value of limiting friction and sliding friction is approximately. So here they are saying what is your limiting friction and what is your sliding friction. Just think about the relation. I told you that. I know the question is quite tricky, but use your perception. Okay, let me tell you what it would be. What it would be. You can see that option B1, that is 8 newtons and 3 newton. Why so? Because you know that the static friction is always more than the sliding friction. So static friction is 8 newton. In that case, what is your sliding friction? 3 newton. Okay. Your static friction is always more than the sliding friction. Do remember. Okay. Okay. Here come the last question for you. Okay. So a force F is applied on the topmost point of ball placed on a rough surface. Find the direction of frictional force and that is created at the bottommost B. See the figure. Now you have to answer this question. On B, yes.
It should be in the forward direction.
Okay. It should be if your force is forward direction A. So on the B on the surface, what kind of a force is being applied there?
Backward direction.
Exactly, backward direction. And the force in backward direction, that is B1, and that is your frictional force. Here you are putting the force upward and downward. Who is offering the force? That is frictional force. Okay.